come in, because you can't get this message on NBC, CBS. We cannot expect Fox News to carry the message for conservatives for the whole country. I mean, that's insane. And when my sister graduated from Stanford Law School in 2012, and she told me that the whole 3 years she was there, she never turned on a television set. And I'm like, okay, well that's a clue. You know, we're worried about the mainstream media. Nobody's watching them. Who saw anything that I didn't watch? I haven't watched Meet the Press since Tim Russert. And CNN, I don't even know who's on there. And for goodness, MSNBC, if I could not even have them even come through my cable, I mean, I would even pay extra for that. But nobody is watching them. People are getting their media and their news through the internet. So I am not a techie person, and when I say I am not a techie person, that is not, I mean, that is so true. I barely started texting just in 2012 because I didn't know how to really do that. I was like, where do you do this? And so what I got was some very brilliant engineers, and they wrote some code for a website called GOPBUZZ.com. And it's an internet portal for conservative events. So where people can go in, put on the zip code, and find wherever they are, in any part of the country, whether you're in Hawaii, whether you're even in Puerto Rico. Do you guys realize we have Republican clubs in Puerto Rico? I didn't realize that. But anywhere, and you can find those things that are happening for you within a 50-mile radius of that zip code. And I'm like, that's an opportunity for people to go out and see for themselves, because the mainstream media and everyone else is telling people that to get into a Tea Party meeting or a Republican event, you have to have a secret code, you gotta knock 3 times, wait for, you know, people are thinking that you have to have a secret handshake. Well, that's silly, right? It's always open, it's always welcoming, it's always inviting, it's always kind and gracious. But people don't know that because they haven't come. So that's when I said, let's go ahead and do that. And I am proud to say that we launched GOPBuzz.com in January of 2012. And unlike the healthcare.gov website, we have been open ever since we launched. So I was getting calls all over the place. People were calling me, especially we did a lot of stuff with the NFRW, the National Federation of Republican Women, and we did their survey, the first time they've ever did that. Remember, it was an election year, and people were calling me and they said, Karen Watson, your world is about to get really small, because this is exactly what we need. We need to do something that's, you know, social networking based, as opposed to just trying to make it happen any other way. And I was talking to this one lady who was in the media, you know, division of the NFRW, and we had literally logged in 50 phone hours. We were just talking, and we were, because I mean, she was, you know how you get to someone and you speak to them and you're like, you just think. Their thoughts are your thoughts. I mean, it's like, you know, my sister from another mother, that kind of thing, because you're the same kind of people. So I was talking to Michelle, and we, you know, she was like, oh yeah, and we were both so deeply read and so easily got, and we could just finish each other's sentences, and we were so hopeful that we were going to get rid of Barack Obama. And she said, you know what, Karen Watson, you're just in Dallas, and I'm just in Louisiana. Why don't you drive out and post our event and be a part of our event in, you know, Louisiana? So I said, okay, I can do that. I will do that. Well, this was before I started going all over the place, and I hate it. I always tell people don't realize I hate to drive. It's one reason I'm moving to Holland Park, because everything is a bubble. But so I asked my operations manager at GOP Buzz. I was like, would you like to drive out there with me? So I'm not driving by myself to Louisiana and be a part of their luncheon meeting. And he said, sure. So we drove to Louisiana, past Longview, and sure enough, we got there a little early. We're sitting there in the lobby of the restaurant. Michelle, we had never seen each other, but you know, we were like sisters, because you know, we were just like, oh yeah. Michelle comes in, Larry and I are sitting down in the foyer waiting for the event to start, and she looks, and she comes back and looks again, and then she just says, "Are you Karen?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, in a typical Louisiana style, she just said, "You're black." And me, in my typical Texan style, I said, "And you're not." And here's Larry, he was Asian, or is Asian, so it was just a weird time in Louisiana. But she was like, "No, you just don't understand. All this time, all these hours of talking to you, I never once thought you were black." She said, she goes, you just gotta understand, I never even had a hint that you would be black." And so she said, "You know what, you need to write a book about being black and Republican." Again, here I am, a solutions person. I said, "You know what, I will do that. I will write that book." And my first title was going to be the 10 Things You Don't Know About Black Republicans, and chapter 1 was going to be Yes, We Exist. But I said, "You know what, Karen, you have an opportunity to really make a difference. You have an opportunity to not be polemic. You have an opportunity to really create the Rosetta Stone to break the code for the demographic that is being hurt the most in this country by this administration." So I said, "I'm going to take it on seriously, because, you know, with me, I'm either all in or all out." And so what I did an open mic to every black Republican there is. And I said, "I don't care where you are, I will bring you in and we will just talk." And it was like just kind of no parameters. You just tell us what is on your mind, and we recorded it and all of that kind of stuff. And we did that for 8 weeks. And then I logged in truly 2,000 hours of just data mining, reading the driest reports there are. And you know what I found? It changed a lot of my opinion, because at first I just assumed that most blacks were not voting their brain because they had not been exposed to it. But what I found out of doing all that research and reading all that stuff, it's not just that. It's a very calculated, very orchestrated, designed for blacks to stay away from the Republican Party. This isn't just that people didn't know. You know, like I always tell people, it's not just saying, "Well, I don't like bacon because you've never had bacon," or "I don't like chocolate." And I always tell people I can't even be friends with people who don't like chocolate, because we're just two different kinds of people. But it's not just that. It is that it is so important. It is so important that people who are black, who have a different narrative than others, are told they can no even think of anything outside of the Democratic Party. And you know why? Because it is the only thing that keeps the left together. It is just the facts. It is just the facts. It is just the numbers. And politics is a numbers thing. And I think that's kind of why I like politics, because it is a numbers game. The person who has 50.1 will beat the person that has 49.9. It is just the way it is. So I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Because people forget that the Republican Party started out as the party of the biggest idea this country has ever experienced, which was the abolition of slavery. I mean, my goodness, people forget, and I don't know how we have gotten people so dumbed down, that it was Abraham Lincoln who was the first Republican president, that it was the NAACP that was started to commemorate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. That's like saying Freedom Works will be a liberal organization in 20 years. How did we lose the NAACP? People don't even understand that it was Eisenhower who created the first civil rights legislation that was filibustered and voted down by JFK and LBJ. And see, we aren't telling the story. And isn't it interesting that 12 Years a Slave was the #1 movie? And I tell people, thank God it wasn't 13 Years a Slave. I mean, for goodness sake, this deal needs to have an exodus of it. There's a reason why Roots is always on TV. There's a reason why Juan Williams said what he said yesterday on a Sunday talk show. Because people are starting to wake up. And the way they keep people not hearing what's going on is that they put over these overlays of racism. I always tell people, the left, they only have 2 cards. Race, and goodness, if race doesn't work, it's Bush. You know, you're a racist, you're a racist. You don't like him because you're a racist. Well, then that ain't work. Well, you know, Bush, you know. I mean, my goodness, between racism and Bush, that's all they have. And yet, we have a nation that is so slipping away. So I finished the book, got it out, and what I did is, just like they orchestrated and really kind of designed everything to keep Black Americans away from their conservative values, I did the same thing with my book. There's a reason why the font is the size it is. There's a reason why my picture's on the front of my picture's on the back. There's a reason why all of this. There's a reason why things are laid out a certain way that they are, because it is not a coffee table book. It is not a book to put on a coffee table and say, oh, look at, no. It is a book to change the world. And I tell people I've been known for a lot of things. #1 at Bank of America, buying a home in Highland Park, but what I will be known for is the woman who was one of the ones that helped set the captives free. When I drove here, I left a home on Beverly Drive with a little bitty dog, and the reason that what gets me out here is because I still believe in America. Because see, what my story could not be duplicated today. And I can't just sit in my home and just say, oh, I made it, and not realize what's happening, what's hurting our nation. When I sat there and met Ronald Reagan, this is not the nation he left us with. This is not what America is. I don't even know what this is. And part of the problem is that nobody will talk about what's happening because people get confused that Barack Obama is Black. And I always tell people, isn't his mama white? I mean, why are we sitting up here acting like we can't say anything? And then on my Facebook page, I put in there, I said, if Republicans are afraid to impeach Barack Obama because he's Black, then just impeach the white part of him. I mean, my goodness. I mean, it is insane. It is so insane. See, my mother, who, as most Black Americans are conservative, we grew up and we knew that. We know that my family would be ashamed to take, some welfare money or a handout. Oh my gosh! I mean, like I said, we would eat rice and beans and butter and bread before we would do that. Not that we lived a good life, and I thought everybody went to church 5 days a week because that's the way it was. It was church and work, and so people know that it's not that. And I've never met a person that would really rather have an Obama phone than an opportunity. And see, I was never, ever told that I was a victim.